The pursuit of AI is painted as an international race.
The media trumps it up as a heavyweight contest between America and China!
But is that the real picture? Who will hold the real power over AI?
Get the human!
Your Honor, and nothing but the truth.
Honey, would you like some coffee?
Yes, please. Are you spying on me again?
No.
Liar.
America is the most powerful nation in the world, and in terms of AI technology, the US is a heavyweight champion. But there are lots of other countries hot on her heels. So I'm here to find out what America is doing to stay ahead. The US Defense Department has invested in AI for over 50 years, and their agency that made those strategic bets is called DARPA. For over 60 years, DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, has funded breakthrough technology projects that have changed our world. Technology that DARPA kickstarted decades ago now forms the foundation of the internet, the Global Positioning System GPS, self-driving cars, stealth technology, and even the computer mouse. DARPA invests billions in search of next-generation AI, and that could transform our world again.
So we really see AI as making it possible for a machine to really start to function more as a colleague or partner than just merely as a tool.
Do you regard that America is leading the world in AI know-how?
We are a world leader. A lead can be very short-lived. And that's pretty much due to the democratization of technology throughout the world, particularly in information technologies, computer-based technologies.
I asked that question earlier because Vladimir Putin has been quoted as saying that the nation that leads in AI will rule the world.
It's asking, say, I have silicon transistor technology, I'm going to rule the world. I have AI technology, I will rule the world. By itself, it has no impact. You will need the human beings who will take it, understand how to incorporate it into bigger systems, understand how to then use those systems that start to make that big difference.
So how does the USA maintain its technological advantage in terms of AI?
I think the United States certainly has an excellent infrastructure or ecosystem that is able to pull that in and turn it into products and other types of applications.
When it comes to taking advantage of the latest computer technology, that's a specialty of California's Silicon Valley. From silicon microchips to personal computers, from internet companies to smartphones, Silicon Valley has prospered by turning technology into consumer products for decades.
The microchip was invented here.
The Valley is where John Markoff grew up. As a journalist, he has written about the tech industry for nearly 30 years. He's now a research affiliate at Stanford University, a cradle of AI.
In 1964, a Stanford professor by the name of John McCarthy created a research laboratory here called the Stanford Artificial Intelligence Laboratory. And he was funded by the Pentagon. And at that time, he told his funders that it would take him 10 years to build a thinking machine. He was a little optimistic.
Yeah, a little bit late.
It turned out to be a harder problem than he thought it was. So you go all the way back to 1980 in Silicon Valley, 1980 to 85, and there was a mini boom in AI. And everybody thought that AI was going to be the next big thing then, and they were wrong. They were too early, and so a bunch of companies who started, and they all folded. It was called the AI winter. It's a boom and bust economy, and there's no reason that won't happen again. Now, AI seems to be taking over the world. The Valley sees a new idea, and everybody goes after that idea. And that's what's happening with AI. Not only did you have an investment cycle with Silicon Valley's venture capitalists, but there was also a wave of Chinese investment into Silicon Valley. And you get both of those things together, and you have this huge fire hose of money, and so you have this really remarkable period.
Would you prefer the future of AI to be dominated by Silicon Valley rather than, say, China or Russia?
Better that the technology is controlled by a democratic country than a non-democratic country. But I actually think about it on a different axis. It's actually, are we going to use these technologies to augment the human mind, or are we going to use it to replace the human mind? A lot of the best engineers in Silicon Valley have that value set. That is, that we want to use this technology to empower the best parts of humanity.
But Silicon Valley values can bump against the demands of America's military. In 2017, Google signed a contract with the Defense Department to provide its AI technology for Project Maven, where they would help them use machine learning to analyze drone footage. But 6,400 Google employees petitioned against it, demanding that the company never build warfare technology. Back on the East Coast, just outside Washington, D.C., retired Air Force General Dr. Robert Latif has a different perspective about what happened at Google.
I think it was a bit hypocritical. Google makes a lot of money selling things to the Department of Defense and to the intelligence community with cloud services and all kinds of software. When you think about it, what they backed away from was a specific project for a specific system.
Because for a while, we've been investing in the scale of our computational architecture.
So do you think, despite that, these big tech companies will continue to work with the American military in its AI tech initiatives?
I absolutely do. They have responsibilities to shareholders, and they're all good Americans. They're American companies.
So do you think there is a global arms race going on right now in terms of AI?
Yes, there is a big arms race going on, particularly between the U.S. and China and Russia. All of those countries are spending an enormous amount of money, not only for civil applications, but also for defense and intelligence applications. In my opinion, in the future, artificial intelligence will help us decide what to do and what should our next move be, like a game of chess. And then, ultimately, the machines will actually do some of the fighting for us.
Talk of an arms race worries me, and I'm not the only one. In Cambridge University, at the Center for the Study of Existential Risk, researchers are analyzing how AI could endanger the world.
I think describing us as the worst case scenario, guys, is actually quite an apt description. We're an interdisciplinary research centre focused on the biggest risks that we might face this century.
How true or false is this narrative of nations being in this race to lead in AI and dominate the world?
There's been a lot made of the quote by Vladimir Putin that whoever wins in AI or leads in AI rules the world. But it often hasn't been mentioned that he said this to school children, and he followed up the initial line by saying if Russia was in this position, it would have a responsibility to share the benefits of AI with the world.
So has it all been somewhat sensationalist?
I think there's an element of sensationalism to it. We think that it's a rhetoric that might encourage corner cutting on safety, and it might discourage the kind of global cooperative conversation that we think is really needed in order to make sure that the benefits of artificial intelligence are distributed internationally.
The truth is, the pursuit of AI isn't a winner-takes-all race. People across the world work together. They share ideas and spur each other on.
我会打太极拳。
China plans to lead the world in AI by 2030.
中国人很聪明。
To digest the country's AI vision, I'll sample how China's become a hot pot for AI.
请您跟着我。
好。
Are you spying on me again?
No.
Liar.
The US leads the world in AI technology, but China aims to catch up. In July 2017, the State Council of China outlined a plan for their country to become the leading AI power by 2030. In China, AI is now a national priority.
Before I go to China, I visit Oxford University's Future of Humanity Institute to speak with Jeffrey Ding. Jeff's been analyzing China's AI ambitions and wrote a paper deciphering China's AI dream.
Why would China want to lead the world in AI?
They see AI as the next industrial revolution that is essential for countries to be on the leading edge of. So you capture the most gains, you're on the forefront of what drives future economies and future technologies. So they see AI as this enabling factor that will allow them to climb the value chain for manufacturing, allow them to keep maintaining GDP targets with a declining labor force and aging populations and maintain performance legitimacy. You also have very important related objectives in the military space, maintaining national security, ensuring ways to better manage the population through data-backed governance methods. And then finally, the countries that are on the leading edge are viewed as more powerful, or viewed as more influential. So there is that prestige and reputational element as well.
In China, they're crazy about AI and robots. It's everywhere, even if you just want some hot pot. So let's check out this branch of Haidilao in Beijing.
This looks like a laboratory, but no, there's no DNA of cavemen or the cure for cancer. What this is like the distribution center. A robot arm grabs your order and a robot waiter serves it to you.
中国是以应用场景来推动我 AI 产业在科技发展的进步。
To let citizens experience the future of AI and smart technology, Chinese companies have built this smart town.
Here you can experience a vision of banking with robots.
Hello. 您好，我是建行 Hello， 您的英语还真标准呢。
Oh, thank you very much for the compliment.
好的，小龙神社就带您去智慧理财区，请您跟着我。
好。
You can access this unmanned 24-hour smart shop with your face.
欢迎光临。
Oh, there we go. In we go. I want everything. Ah, chilies. Let's get some chilies. Oh, right, I guess I forgot to pay for the chilies by scanning the code. Obviously, this is pretty secure and pretty convenient. And always remember, shop theft is a crime.
This smart home has a smart fridge, smart climate control, and even a smart toilet.
在浴室，你也可以享受一些娱乐的功能。只要您在这个浴室都可以的。
可是如果我在
马桶上，你可以用语音的方式，你可以用语音指挥它。
Autonomous vehicle. And the exhibition used to include a spin in a driverless car.
How? Oh, it's moving by itself. The steering wheel's moving by itself.
Organizers say that 500,000 people have visited this smart town, and many have been wowed by what's on show.
Do you think this is the future?
我们非常愿意住在这样的智慧小镇里面，因为不管是对生活还是工作都非常的方便。
Chongqing aims to be the largest smart city in Asia. With a population of 30 million, it's a treasure trove of data. But with so much of it all, it will take AI and machine learning to make sense of it all.
那么现在呢，大数据智能化已经应用到人们生活的方方面面。
This big data exhibition center presents data drawn from all of Chongqing's districts. It consolidates data from government, business, community, and traffic too.
比如说我身后的那个交通平台，我们这个平台里面呢，就是结合了人工智能、大数据、云计算等等。平台内的人工智能还可以对我们交通事故周围的红绿灯进行智能的调控，方便这里出行的市民。
At the country level, Chongqing has been defined as the only city focused on big data and intelligence. So the government has put a lot of resources in developing this.
Chongqing's Liangjiang new area is attracting tech corporations and startups to set up outposts here. Officials say they want the area to be a knowledge hub for China's AI industry.
所以现在两江新区，我们通过智能化、智慧化，把人工智能加入到我智慧化企业工厂里面的进行生产、精益生产的管理。
In Liangjiang, AI and big data analysis is transforming a major Chongqing industry, logistics. Chongqing is a land transport and logistics hub for Western China. It has a crucial role in China's trillion-dollar plan to re-establish the Silk Road and expand overland trade with other nations.
China's Belt and Road Initiative could be empowered by AI.
AI 作为重庆市的战略新兴产业，那么说我们最大的一个短板就是人才，人才决定一个城市的高度。
To support Chongqing's growth and China's AI vision, Chongqing University of Technology launched an AI college in Liangjiang that just took in its first batch of students.
你好，我是来自重庆理工大学人工智能学院的脑。我会打太极拳，你想看吗？
想。
想，请稍等。
重庆理工大学的两江人工智能学院是2018年今年的6月9号正式挂牌的，在全国应该说还是前10所大学当中率先建立了人工智能学院。
This AI college was founded just a year after the central government announced its national AI strategy. The college has gained instant credibility by taking in established faculty members from Peking University and much investment from the state. At least half the students come from across China, and admission is only for those with top-tier grades.
报名的踊跃程度和社会的认可程度是相当高的。
人工智能是研究使计算机来模拟人的某些思维过程和智能行为，如学习、推理、思考、规划等的学科。
China wants to be a world leader in AI. So how important is education
in achieving this goal? And from what you've seen of the students and the education system, is achieving this goal a reality?
中国人很聪明，做人工智能首先得有人的智能。我相信最聪明的中国人一定能搞出最好的人工智能，在未来一定会引领世界人工智能发展的方向。
AI dominance depends on very smart people.
Alex Beard has studied education systems around the world and says China will become the best in AI through education.
What I think China has is a great basic education system, and they've just announced last year this big AI education policy. So they're planning to build national institutes of artificial intelligence education across the country. They're bringing AI education into the curriculum for secondary schools. So kids in Shanghai, for example, know 3 years more maths and 1.5 years more science than kids in the UK.
Why is education the key to winning this long race towards AI dominance?
Well, there is a Chinese saying, which I really like, that if your plan is for 1 year, plant rice, if your plan is for 10 years, plant trees, and if your plan is for 100 years, educate children.
China's AI industry is getting involved in education too. This high school textbook about AI fundamentals was released by one of China's leading AI startups, SenseTime.
Usually it takes about 5 or 6 years to produce a PhD. So we've figured instead of saying you can only learn about AI in college, you can actually learn when you're in high school. The textbook was implemented today in about 100 top high schools in China.
In 2018, SenseTime was the world's highest valued AI startup, valued at over $4.5 billion US. With supercomputing and its own deep learning platform, SenseTime can identify multiple people and objects in real time. It's helping its customers with security, governance, and traffic control.
Our customers could use this to find the traffic jam or traffic accidents, and we can tell which one's responsibilities in this traffic accident.
Oh, that looks real close. Is that 警察, policeman?
Yeah, policeman.
Oh, he almost hit someone, you know. Actually, China is the perfect place to see this sort of thing, because the way people drive here is very scary. It's like that. China has made international headlines for its advanced use of facial recognition. Using an extensive network of CCTV cameras, authorities have managed to locate long-lost fugitives and even missing children.
But some question if powerful AI should be used to watch over citizens.
All countries have to survey their societies. We have CCTV cameras in order to look out for risky or criminal behavior that can be harmful to general society. But the problem with artificial intelligence when it's applied to surveillance is that it becomes extremely excessive. Very invasive, exactly. And there are concerns with certain countries which are relatively undemocratic, like Russia and China, that may seek to use AI-driven surveillance in a way which is generally not acceptable to other countries.
Big Brother style sort of control.
Exactly.
So I've explored how AI could empower nations, but could AI disempower workers?
It's a little bit scary.
I think a lot of people think about mass unemployment.
But I read that Sweden isn't afraid of that. Is that true?
Are you spying on me again?
No.
Liar.
I would hate to lose my job and be replaced by a robot or AI. Will AI disempower workers? Michael Chui is a researcher who worked on a disturbing, eye-catching report for McKinsey Global Institute. The December 2017 report said that AI and automation would make 75 to 375 million workers switch job tasks by the year 2030.
I think a lot of people, when they think about AI and robotics, think about mass unemployment. They think about people losing their jobs. And by the way, that likely will happen going forward. But that's not new. I mean, we've actually seen in history, you know, here in the United States in 1900, 40% of the US workforce was involved in agriculture. And 70 years later, it was about 2%. Well, we don't have 35% unemployment here because we've created new activities to pay people to do over time. And I think what we've seen in our research is that there definitely are scenarios where even going forward, there'll be enough work for people to do. So the shift in mindset is not as much to worry about mass unemployment, but really to take that problem-solving mindset to how do we do mass redeployment. We think it's one of the grand challenges of the next few decades.
Reports say that AI and automation could displace hundreds of millions of jobs. But I read that Sweden isn't afraid of that. Is that true? What do they know that we don't? We know Sweden through its world-famous brands, IKEA, H&M, Volvo, Absolute, the list goes on. For a country of just approximately 10 million people, the Swedes really pack a punch when it comes to innovation and enterprise.
To understand how Swedes approach technology, I visit the epicenter in Stockholm. It may look like yet another hip co-working space, but its staff and members have embedded microchips in their hands that open the door to new possibilities.
Now, I never forget my keys. You just swipe the door and off we go. Welcome to Epicenter.
Oh, thank you. Wow.
My host is Epicenter's Chief Disruption Officer, Hannes Sjöblad.
So I swipe my chip here, and here we go. Can I treat you to a sparkling water?
Of course. Thank you very much.
So that was the transaction.
Okay.
And the chip is my wallet.
Right.
So this is a pretty neat hack. What I have here is a little implant which is about the size of a grain of rice.
Okay, yes, it is a little bit, yeah,
A little hard
feel
thing.
something.
And if you want to have a look, this is what it looks like.
Okay, so this is it.
It's not more dramatic to put it in your hand than it is to, for example, get an earring. The only thing is that this is a smart technology because it has the capacities of a badge or, a plastic card that all use this NFC technology, which is near-field communication. It turns out that if you put a little chip implant in your hand, it gives you a lot of fascinating abilities.
Right, for example?
Well, I have my business cards in my chip, so I never run out of business cards. But I can also use this around Sweden in different shops to get discounts. I can ride trains all over Sweden using this as my ticket. I can just swipe my hand at the turnstiles.
And how open are your colleagues and, fellow Swedes to this concept?
A lot of people here at Epicenter are experimenting with these implants. And when we host our afterworks here, sometimes we have a piercer come to do implants, and there's always a lot of people that turn up to get implanted. So by now, we've implanted thousands of people at these different events. I think Sweden is a country where people are quite tech-savvy, and that makes it easier for them to adopt and understand new technologies. Perhaps we trust our institutions a lot here in Sweden.
The fact that there are quite a lot of Swedes who are very open to this idea shows that there is quite a bit of trust between them and companies and the government.
Swedes trust their government so much that they pay over 50% income tax. In return, citizens expect their government to provide social welfare, services, and a safety net. The The Swedish government says its national AI strategy will enhance both the economy and people's welfare. They've appointed Åsa Zetterberg to push forward the plan as Sweden's chief digital officer.
It's a new role, actually, so it's pretty much challenging, but of course it's a unique role to drive, the digital transformation for Sweden.
There are lots of reports out there saying that with AI, millions of jobs are going to be lost. And recently there was an article in the New York Times. It said, the robots are coming and Sweden is fine.
Yeah, I know.
So are the Swedes really quite open to it because they think that the companies and society will train them in new jobs? Are they quite confident about that?
We have a history of making it work. Since we have quite a well-built welfare system and everything, maybe that's something that people feel trust that we will be taken care of. We understand the facts that we can't really resist it. We can make good use of it, and by doing that, Sweden could be really competitive on an international level. By being only afraid or being like sitting still, that's more scary, I would say.
The Swedes are fairly open to it, or has there been quite a bit of resistance towards artificial intelligence?
It's not easy to say, but we're also critical, and that's good. We need to have the capacity to think what is good and bad, and how do we do the best out of this.
The Swedish government seems keen on AI, but what do Stockholm residents think about AI?
I think it's a little bit scary.
Right now we have the control, but if we just keep doing what we're doing, they will be more intelligent and eventually take over.
AI is already taking over jobs. At some supermarkets, why have surgeons when you can have a robot with exact precision?
But AI can also be a provider for the future, so people can get other jobs.
If your jobs were displaced, do you trust your government in retraining you?
I don't really think I would trust them.
Swedish people like to educate and learn more about internet and technology.
So whose responsibility is it? Is it the government's? Is it your company's responsibility?
It's everyone's.
Or is it...
Everyone takes. But you need help, and you need structure, and you need regulation to support and enable you to be the best you in your career and in your everyday life.
At this point in time, I think they're still finding how to embrace this technology and also look out for their own people. I mean, it's not some AI utopia here.
While society navigates AI's pros and cons, for some Swedish companies, AI could be like jet fuel.
I'm in the flight simulator of a Gripen, which is one of the world's most advanced, if not the world's most advanced fighter jet.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please fasten your seatbelts. We're in for a bumpy ride.
The Gripen is designed by Saab, a Swedish aerospace and defense company. Saab was founded in 1937 to develop Sweden's first fighter plane when no one would sell them one.
Yes, let's do a loop. Let's do a loop. Let's do a loop. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I can't go fish. I can't do this. Where am I?
Fighter jets like the Gripen showcase Sweden's determination to innovate with cutting-edge technology in spite of their size.
Will AI make a better pilot compared to me? Of course.
I meet Saab's Chief Technology Officer, Pontus de Laval. Pontus says AI could enhance their world-class defense systems. Machine learning could make sense of sonar, radar, and sensor signals. AI could even fly their signature fighter jet.
Making them completely autonomous, that will come in the future.
There's this New York Times article that has the headline, "Robots are coming and Sweden is fine." That's because the Swedes trust that their companies and society will train them in new jobs once their jobs are displaced. How accurate a picture is this of Sweden and its industries?
I think it's an accurate picture. Going back in time, we had the shipyard industry, one of the world's largest shipyard industries, and We did a mistake then and tried to hang on to that industry, and you just waste a lot of money. And I think this policy since then, since the 70s, has been instead to retrain people and also have like a social security network, so people feel safe really to adopt the new technology. We've been able to cope with the technology shift so far, and we think we will cope with this one as well.
We worry AI could take jobs, but AI could actually enable more to work. Microsoft's Seeing AI app describes aloud what it sees on camera.
I think it's a man jumping in the air doing a trick on a skateboard.
It was created by a visually impaired developer to enable those with poor sight to make sense of the world around them. Seeing AI has been embraced at Poke Jai Thai Restaurant, a social enterprise that gives people with disabilities meaningful work.
A lot of people say that AI will take away jobs for many people. But I think your situation is slightly different, right?
I feel that it creates jobs for us. For example, the visually impaired community, they are able to do more work.
Restaurant staff with vision or learning impairments could use Seeing AI to read out orders, recipes, and menus.
Rice set. Garlic honey chicken with rice, basil chicken with rice with choice of tuna made iced Thai drink.
There are about 1 billion people around the world with disabilities. That's about 15% of the world's population that have disabilities. And so when we think about empowering literally every person on the planet to achieve more, we also need to make sure we include people with disabilities.
In Cambridge University, Dr. Simon Beard wrote that AI can make the world fairer, but it's up to us.
I myself have a visual impairment, and my job has been immensely improved by the quality of the text-to-speech algorithms that have been developed now to turn written papers into documents that I can listen to. The problem is, of course, that there's no requirement that that is actually what the AI does. It's up to our society to actually decide how you're going to use those possibilities.
My home city, Singapore, aims to be a smart nation. But with a world hungry for AI, can we hang on to our talent?
Oh, Silicon Valley and then Singapore, right? It's been like,
Singapore! I mean...
Are you spying on me again?
No.
Liar.
I've examined the rivalry of great nations and AI's impact on the world. Now I'll see what AI can open up for my home, Singapore.
I believe that Singapore has a role to play in the AI world, and certainly this should not be limited by the size of our country.
Oliver Tan is the chief executive of Vsense,
Full table!
one of Singapore's leading startups specializing in AI.
With these tools, we can amplify the relevance that Singapore has as a country. Instead of being 50 million people, we can still achieve the same impact using artificial intelligence, even though we are a country of 5.5 million people.
Vsense's visual search engine empowers international retailers like Zalora and Uniqlo, enabling consumers to search their products online using just an image.
Pictures are universal language. It cuts across Japanese, Korean, Italian, so we are able to help people find products without them searching for keywords. Take a picture of a nice shirt.
Yeah.
Flamingo.
Yeah.
It's from Walmart. It's from $18.50.
Wow, Walmart so expensive. Walmart should be cheaper, you know.
These big companies, they've got lots of money, and you're a smaller company in Singapore. How do you compete for the talent?
So talent is very precious, especially AI talents today. Talent is mobile today. They like to work with people that are smarter than themselves. We've built a critical mass of talent that draws in other talent from different markets. So today we have more than 14 nationalities speaking more than a dozen languages.
GovTech, the government technology agency, says Singapore must hold on to its precious AI talent and attract them back from abroad.
The Singaporeans doing great work around the world. How can we attract them back? Well, part of it is to give them cool stuff to do. They need big challenges. And because of what we're trying to do with Smart Nation, we're trying to solve a whole country's problems. This is not about designing your next game or your next consumer app.
It's not?
No, sorry. It's not, right? It's about solving some really important problems. Transport, healthcare, our safety and security. How do we do social services better? So we think that interesting, exciting challenge is an important reason for people to stay here and come back here.
Is there a bit of an image problem here? I mean, people think, oh, Silicon Valley and then Singapore, right? It's a bit like, which one do I choose?
Singapore. I mean, seriously, if you're Singaporean, you want to be close to home. You want to be close to your parents. Maybe you've had some time overseas, you've had an exciting adventure, but you want to come home, right? It's home.
What happens here at GovTech?
They build cool stuff. They code great programs and they bring it together. You know, parking.sg, have you used that? The app to pay, so you don't have to use your parking coupons anymore?
Oh, yep, that one?
Down here.
That came from here.
Yeah.
Oh, very environmentally friendly, guys. Good stuff, good stuff. No one's littering anymore, too.
I
never did, though.
Yeah. But if you did, there's an app, the One Service app, to report on littering in town council and municipal issues.
We've been talking about how, it's about the people who are handling the data and harnessing this artificial intelligence technology. But at some point in time, won't the robots replace the people?
So our response in Singapore has always been that we have to reskill and retrain. And actually, this is not something new just in this decade because of AI. It's something that we've thought about as long as we've been an independent nation, that we will always have to retrain and reskill our workforce.
Many working Singaporeans are preparing for AI's impact by learning what they can about it.
So what's your idea of AI? Due to Hollywood, everybody thinks that, this is AI, right? No, today we are already using AI. Today's class.
Through its AI for Everyone workshop, AI Singapore aims to introduce 10,000 residents to AI within 3 years. If our adults are rethinking the way they look at AI, should our youth?
Youth are really going to be the next generation of people who will have the strongest say and will be in a position to shape this technology. And it has to start off with at the level of ideas.
As part of the Education Ministry's Gifted Education Program, University Professor Dr. Graham Ong Webb mentors some of Singapore's brightest young minds and guides their studies of how AI could impact society.
Okay, well, tell me more about your study into AI.
I'm studying AI in the area of healthcare, namely elder care.
We have learned about AI in the transportation sector.
I'm doing a research on what the public thinks of AI. For example, I could state a question: do you think AI would eliminate the human race?
So do they think we're going to be eliminated?
Mostly not.
After my research, I definitely feel that there's a need for greater public awareness, because I think most people are either foreign towards the idea of AI or they underestimate AI.
So how does working with these students prepare us for the future?
The mantle is really on the next generation of Singaporeans, and that's where we need to be investing a lot of our energies, preparing them for the future prospect of AI.
May I? Yeah! Awesome, let's do it.
At Child First Singapore, they teach students to code and program robots by the time they graduate at 6 years old.
Diagonals like the cross. There's the A-B pattern. A, B, A, B. We can repeat 2 times.
We started as a bilingual school where we practice half-day English and half-day Chinese. But with the advent of AI, We feel that it's important for children to learn the third language, which we believe is coding, the language to communicate with robots and AI.
Now look at this function 1.
There is a repeat sign like 60 normal, 55, for 60 normal, 55. After turn right 45, 60.
As you know, for learning a language, it's best to learn it when you're young.
Sarah, what's 22?
Ended when the robot actually lifted up the hand.
And so does everyone love this, or have you had some criticism?
There are also some parents that feel that coding is for programmers. My child is going to be a doctor or lawyer. Why is this relevant to my child? But the reality is AI is going to impact all industries and all jobs.
So how can exposing children to robots and AI make them more human?
For example, like the robot dance that you saw earlier, that is a creative endeavor. Okay, they need to think about how to position the robots, what dance steps they need to do, the music. This goes beyond just the coding and the programming side. They have to communicate, they have to work as teams, they have to solve problems, they experience failure and success. The robot dance is just the means of training them on these much bigger things. As a result, they become more human.
Like this? Ah! From what I've seen, the next generation will have the real power over AI. How the future turns out will depend on the values we pass on to them.
Lights.